All right, and with that being said, just for time's sake, since it is 12, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We'll still have more people slowly joining, and we will, we'll have time to discuss and type in the chat and email us later and all that great stuff. So we appreciate you all again. Thank you for being here. This is our first Four Seasons of Advocacy training meeting, and I'm going to briefly go over the agenda. We're going to talk about year-round advocacy. We're going to talk about why advocacy is important. We're going to talk about what Four Seasons of Advocacy means. We're going to talk about legislative delegation hearings and meetings. And we're also going to talk about advocacy resources, specifically those that the Arc of Florida provides. And so year-round advocacy, I have my slide here as well so I can see it a little bit bigger, but year-round advocacy, it's sustainable. The importance of it, first off, is to be sustainable and to keep our advocacy ongoing 365 days a year. I will go ahead and introduce myself on this third slide real quick. I am Dustin Goodwin. I'm the Communications and Outreach Manager here for the Arc of Florida. I've been here for going on like 2.5 years, and it's awesome. So advocacy is near and dear to my heart, so it's really cool to get to help present on that today. So yeah, I talked about the importance of keeping our advocacy going 365 days a year. There's also the term limits with our legislators. They're not always going to be there, so we have to keep the advocacy rolling with fresh faces. You have to start out right away to build relationships with the freshmen so that one day when those freshmen have leadership positions, you'll understand the importance of that. And then also, it's not just during the 60-day session, and which obviously, or 100 and whatever, 100 and something day session like this last one. But advocacy is beyond important when session is out. Summer, fall, all those times leading up to session and after session, you want to go ahead and start your meetings for the next session. It's very, very important. I've learned already these past 2 years to go ahead and start meeting and figuring out your main goals for the next session. Like right after that current session ends, you want to go ahead and start game planning. So it's very important to understand that advocacy goes beyond just session when the legislators are up here in Tallahassee. It goes way beyond that. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then the importance of advocacy. So we have many advocates on the call today, so you all understand many different aspects of it. But obviously, we know that advocacy is important because of the awareness that it raises. We know that our population is not very well known to most people and all people in Florida, and we're trying to change that. So, and then obviously to influence and change policies, advocacy is huge. I mean, if we weren't up here at the Capitol and making meetings after session and things like that to help our representatives and our senators understand what is important in the lives of our adults and children with intellectual or developmental disabilities, then we're not going to make an impact on policies. We're not going to influence those. It's that simple. If we're not advocating, it's not going to happen. So it's very important. It's also important because we represent individuals who may not be able to speak for themselves. Many of us on this call do that every day, day in and day out. We speak for those who can't for themselves, and you understand that that is a key to why advocating is important because there are so many clients who cannot speak for themselves, and so we're here to do that for them. Many of you all on the call as well, and then please, right now and throughout the call, you can take time to put in the chat why you think advocacy is important to you. And we definitely appreciate any feedback. We couldn't do what we do without other advocates and clients and providers and families out there. Without families, telling us what's going on day in and day out, we wouldn't know how to advocate properly. So we definitely appreciate your feedback. And with that, I will conclude my intro and introduce our CEO here at the Arc of Florida, Summer Pfeiffer, and she's going to explain more about our presentation here on the Four Seasons of Advocacy.
Thank you, Dustin, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today. This training or this idea of Four Seasons of Advocacy came to me quite a few years back. And it was part of some advocacy work that we were doing. I happened to be at the time employed with the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council. And we were working with self advocates, we were working with family members on some training. And it was always interesting. Some of the questions I would get on, well, when should we be doing this? Or when, if we're promoting this year-round advocacy, as Dustin was explaining, how important it is to be working on advocacy throughout the year. And that we can't just rely on right before session or just only during session. And so I was being asked a lot of questions on it, which led me to, well, all of us are advocates, right? Everyone on this call and so many of us that we work with and maybe take care of. But maybe we lacked a little bit, and I called myself out on this, is maybe we lacked a little bit of organization as advocates. Sometimes we may be thinking about what we're going to say, and maybe there's some strategy behind it sometimes that maybe we need to think about before. So really what you're going to hear today is, again, taking some activities, taking some goals and objectives and putting them into year-round advocacy, but let's split it up. Let's work on it strategically. Let's work on it organizationally in a way that whether you're one single advocate and you want to work on the Four Seasons of Advocacy in a plan, this I hope will help you. If you are a provider on this call and you have a board of directors, I have used this training in multiple ways with a board of directors. Again, board of directors are your volunteers, they're your advocates. Most of the time, boards are concentrating on fundraising and advocacy and awareness. But how do we organize them so that we can maintain and maximize their efforts in this space? So I hope you guys enjoy, and I'm going to walk through each one of the seasons. I have to say, I'm so excited about this training too, because it is the perfect time when you start in the summer. And so that's what we're starting with right now. Summertime. And you can see on the screen, each one of these seasons has a goal. So if you think about the summertime as session has ended, the legislative session, whether it's a year like this year, an odd year, 2025, they ended in, or were supposed to end in the beginning of May. On even years, they will end normally sometime in early to mid March. But either way, if you think about that session being, okay, there's a clean slate, and maybe that falls with elections or campaigning that's going to happen. The goal for your first season when you're coming out of a legislative session is maybe to initiate a relationship. Now you can utilize these objectives and other activities if you already have a relationship with a legislator or elected official, but this kind of starts with, again, that clean slate. Maybe you have a legislator that might be a chair of a committee that's really important to you and is going to be developing and has that leadership when it comes to changing public policy. Maybe you don't know that person very well. So how do you initiate that relationship? So again, time frame, starting anytime when session's over. So May, June, through here, we're here in August. There's things that you can do. And again, those can be a little flexible, of course, on the time frames. But again, you may be volunteering. You may be working to meet with your legislators. There may be opportunities, if you are a provider, that you are having an event at your location. Maybe those are things, and a really good opportunity for you to invite them. Come join us. Come learn more about how we are impacting the lives of individuals with developmental disabilities. I always think, again, as much as it's great to share with them all the good things that we're doing, it's a perfect opportunity too to share some of the challenges that you may be dealing with. Again, if session went the way maybe you liked it and the way you wanted it to go, this is a perfect opportunity to be able to showcase your appreciation, your recognition for their hard work during session. And that could be in a form of an award. Again, we at the ARC of Florida have awards that we have given statewide for some legislators for their hard work this past session, working with their offices to come up with what's the perfect way, what's the perfect location, what meets their schedule, what meets your schedule, is there an event that we're doing? So this is, again, this is between kind of this summer time frame and fall are good ways to initiate perhaps that relationship. I'm going to move on to the fall now. And again, goal, if you're thinking of, okay, I've got a relationship, I've started, I've initiated perhaps the relationship. Well, how, again, relationships don't happen overnight and they don't happen instantly, and it takes time and it takes effort, right, to be able to continue to build upon what you might have already established. So as we start to enter this fall timeframe, you may be able to follow up and build upon some of the initial interactions that you've had with them, whether it was this past session or perhaps some other activities that you might have been engaging with them over the summer. For the ARC of Florida, we're working right now on our legislative agenda for the 2026 agenda, and we'll have that out later this month. So that could be things that, again, if you agree with, if you want to help support the ARC of Florida's legislative agenda, that is something that you could share with your legislators' offices. Hey, I just wanted to make sure that you and your office are aware these are important issues, not just for myself or maybe my family or my organization, but they're also something that represents providers that are serving individuals with developmental disabilities throughout the state and how important it is to them. This is the time, and you're going to hear more about it this afternoon in the training about delegation hearings. They are starting to be noticed. And again, that fall timeframe, there will be a lot of them that are going to be noticed. And so it could be a great opportunity, again, to get in front of a lot of legislators, perhaps at one event, one location, to be able to testify at your delegation hearings. So again, you'll hear more about that later. So excited about that. You may have a newsletter, whether you're an advocacy organization or a volunteer organization, or maybe a local ARC or colleague of ours. Make sure that you're putting them on your mailing list. Let them know what's going on locally that's important to you, important to the clients that we serve. We also have interim committee meetings that are starting, if you can believe it or not. They're starting in October. There'll be 2 interim committee weeks in early October that will be the first time that the legislature will travel to Tallahassee and start working on those issues as they get ready for that 2026 legislative session. This may be an opportunity, again, where you live or your ability to travel. Coming and spending some time at the Capitol might find you some, again, opportunities to build upon those relationships that you've started. I would always say, whether, again, candidates and you're in campaign season, which will be next year after session is over, or making sure that your legislators now, if you have events or functions, make sure you're getting invited. I had a legislator tell me once that he was on Facebook and he was seeing this organization that he really liked. He was really supportive of them. And it was all the pictures of an event that had just happened. And he said, man, if somebody had invited me, I so would have loved to have gone and participated in that event. So don't assume that maybe they're busy or they might not have time to attend your function or event. Invite them, let them then decide if it meets their schedule. But sometimes even a follow-up, maybe it's a board member that's following up and saying, hey, I hope you got our invitation. We'd really love it for you to be able to join us. Again, it's another great way to build upon those relationships. Okay, so as we enter those cold winter months here in Florida, I know everybody's dreaming of much cooler weather. Again, a goal can be, I've initiated the relationship, we've worked hard and continuing to build upon that relationship. How do we maintain some of this communication? So again, as we're gearing up for an ask or a request or a call to action when session comes. What can we be doing? So again, all of these are just examples. I have talked to so many advocates out there that, again, this is just to get you started. There are so much creativity out there on different ways that you all, and I've heard over the years, that you've been able to utilize. Again, just these are just samples. These are just ideas to get you started. But again, committee weeks will be happening in this time frame during the winter time frame. Session actually starts in January, given it's an even year this time. But you may want to share with legislators again as issues and bills start being filed. This is when you may find some legislation that you want to get behind and you want to support. You want to make sure that they are aware of that and how it could impact, whether it's you as a self-advocate or a family member or as an organization, what benefit this kind of legislation could do. On the other side, it may be legislation that you're not supportive. So to me, I was always taught, if there is legislation that you are not a fan of, if it's something that you're not potentially supportive of, it's always critical to go to the sponsor of that legislation first, and maybe ask questions. I always had a mentor that said, if there's one thing you can find in the bill that you liked, start there. And then maybe ask your questions. Again, maybe being able to tell the sponsor of the legislation, I'm asking these questions because I want to make sure I understand the impact. So I might be able to support, or if I do have concerns, I can articulate those to you and communicate those with you. And then I know a lot of times op-eds are really important. Local legislators always want to read their local newspapers or their local publications. So again, these could be timeframes where maybe there is a piece of legislation that you want to get behind and support. And having that op-ed, again, I've had multiple board members do op-eds. And again, as advocates in their local community, pretty successful in being able to get them published. And again, if we've done all of this work, right, we've started in the summertime, session's over, we've worked to build upon the relationships, maintain communications. It ultimately then becomes springtime. Springtime is my favorite time in Tallahassee. It's beautiful. There are a lot of allergies, and I understand. You have to live through those for the beauty of all the beautiful flowers that are going on. But this is when you can request that legislative action. This is when, again, it's a lot easier if you've, again, started that relationship, for a legislator to want to hear from you than never knowing you, never have met you. And now you're calling them and saying, I hate this, or I love this, or whatnot. So again, this gets you up to that point to be able to share or to request their support in something. So this is again, not just with your legislator, but with your staff. Their staff are sometimes so much easier to get a hold of. They are that doorkeeper and gatekeeper to their legislator. So I always, in addition to inviting a legislator, perhaps to the event, is making sure that they know their staff are always welcome as well. Because you may be the one interacting, especially if you come to the Capitol. Their staff are going to be there to see if they can fit you in or give you an appointment. So they're the ones that are most often looking at the emails for their legislators. So staff are always key. I know we have an IDD day at the Capitol. I have no idea when that date is or who sets it, but I'm excited. Whenever we get it, we will make sure that it's on our website. And so you all, again, those that can come up and travel to Tallahassee, we'd love to have you there. I know that last year, I remember walking around and seeing it. And so I'm really excited about this next year's IDD day at the Capitol. And again, making time, if you're in the Capitol, schedule those appointments with legislators. And if you can't get an appointment, doesn't matter. You stop by, you give them your one-page handout, and see what you can do to get them, again, interact with and engaged. So again, that's the Four Seasons of Advocacy. Again, it was a mechanism to organize advocates in a way because of the importance of year-round advocacy. And again, if we're diligent about working throughout the year, those asks and those requests for actions, I believe, are always stronger when we've done our due diligence of working to strengthen those relationships. So thanks for letting me present. Again, we're going to have more of this kind of training as we move forward. So, but I'm excited to share with you again, because this is the right time to get started if you haven't already. And if those of you that have, it's fantastic. I hope this has given you guys maybe some different ideas to work on. And as you work on this, again, whether you're a self-advocate, you're with an organization, you're a board member or a CEO, let us know maybe some of the things that we can update this training with. Again, the creativity out there is amazing. Well, for purposes of time, because I want to make sure that we get to something that is coming up here and they're starting to get noticed. And we get a lot of questions about what is a legislative delegation and how do I speak and what time and how much prep work is needed. And I'm nervous and I don't know what this is all about. I invited an expert in this subject to join us today. And so I'm so happy to have her with us. Toby Gable. She's a senior director for advocacy and legislative affairs at Children's Home Society. But again, in her resume, she used to work for Representative Allison Tant. It's still a House member here in Tallahassee, where she had multiple legislative delegations that she was working on and prepping and hearing from constituents. So she is really the expert in getting more information out to you all as advocates that this may be something that you want to get involved in. And so again, I'm really glad that she could join us here today and share more. So Toby, thank you so much again for being here, and we're looking forward to what you have to say.
Well, thank you, Summer, and thanks from everyone at the ARC of Florida and everyone on this call for giving me an opportunity to come and speak. That this is my arena, anything advocacy, anything government relations. This is my favorite thing to do, is to speak, and any part that I can do to help educate and empower our advocates statewide, because we can't stress enough how important it is to go in and advocate and to share not only your lived experience, but as you said, to share on behalf of the voices that sometimes they can't go speak for themselves. So I can't discount how important your work is and all the advocacy that you'll be doing this upcoming session. Next, I don't know who's running the PowerPoint, but I think it's Dustin. So I'll just let you know. Next slide.
Sure.
So first, just wanted to start off of what are legislative delegation meetings. So Summer gave you a great primer, and you may hear them out in the community. And if you read your local newspaper or you're ever scrolling through your local county website, you're going to start seeing so-and-so county legislative delegation meeting. So legislative delegation meetings are public forums. They're where our state lawmakers from a specific county, so whichever county you live in, all counties in the state of Florida will likely have one before the session begins. And what they do is all members in the legislature that represent that county. So it's a mix of House members and Senate members, depending on how large the county is. So if you have Miami-Dade County, which we know is very large, that delegation is very large. So you're going to have multiple members that you'll be speaking to at that delegation meeting. Or you're like me, I live in a small county. My county has 3 members in it that sit on the legislative delegation. So those counties are a little bit easier to talk to because you're only talking to 3 people at a time versus could be upwards of 8 to 10. And what these delegations do is they gather to hear from local constituents, from organizations, and from their local government officials. And these meetings are typically held before the start of the legislative session. This is a long-standing tradition that legislators have been doing for decades to really kick off the next upcoming session. So next slide. Thank you. So why do they meet? So a lot of times legislators, they like the opportunity to hear directly from the public about local concerns and priorities. So they're starting right now, and they're going to continue up until the start of the session in January. They're going to start feeling out what are the most important issues to their constituents and to their community. So this delegation meeting allows them to hear about all of those issues at once, and it gives the public an accessible opportunity to speak to them without having to go through individual meetings, having to set up some time. And this also allows residents to put in requests verbally for support for bills or funding. So this is a great opportunity to have that first touch with your legislators before the session begins. And this also fosters a lot of transparency and accountability in our state government. If you've never attended a delegation meeting, even if you don't have an intention to go and speak or advocate on a specific issue, it's still great to go ahead and go in and listen, because you will get a good feel for what issues are important to your community. And you'll have some very, vibrant and vocal people that will show up to a delegation meeting. And it's great to see people engaging in the political process and seeing people that really care about specific issues. So next slide. Thank you. So how do you sign up to speak? So you've seen that the meeting date has been publicized. So they will publicize all of them locally. A great way to find out about your local county is to check your local county's website. Once the date has been set, it will be publicized on the county website. A lot of them also do notices in your local newspaper, either online or in a printed paper. But the ARC of Florida also has a fantastic resource that a lot of other entities have. So they're actually posting a lot of those notices on the website for you. So I would encourage you that if you haven't seen your delegation notice scheduled yet, check in on that website periodically, but also kind of keep an eye out. But you can also just reach out to some of your local legislators that are within that delegation if you want to plan out a little bit further, because a lot of them are still in the progress of scheduling. Just call their office or send an email and say, hey, I would love some information on when the delegation meeting will be. More often than not, they will respond and let you know either the date has been scheduled, or they'll let you know kind of a time frame that you can reach back out. And so once you've seen the meeting notice, it fits in your calendar, you're able to have some time and you want to go and speak. So often these delegations, they'll have a speaker request form that you fill out ahead of time. It's not required. Well, often they'll say it is required that you fill it out. My experience, if you show up to a delegation day of, they're not going to turn you away, but you will be put at the end of the line. So they do take speakers in the order that they receive those forms. So if you have a really busy day or you maybe don't want to stay the entire time, I would encourage you, when you reach out and you see that notice, go ahead and fill out that speaker request form. That way you're already put in the queue and that they'll have you in line to speak. And then also want to make sure of if they've got a deadline on there, this is me coming as a former legislative staffer, to please be considerate of the delegation's timeline. Of when they want you to sign up to speak. It allows them to have all these forms in the process because they want to make sure that they have your contact information. They've got all your information about what issue you're going to be speaking about. That way, after your presentation, a lot of times a legislator will reach back out to you if they have any additional questions or if they've taken an interest and they want to hear more. Next slide. Okay, so you've signed up to speak at the delegation meeting. This is a great first step in really developing your advocacy pitch for the next session. And it's okay if this is your first time ever speaking to legislators and public speaking in general. I mean, I do this for a career and I get nervous every time that I do it. And I've been on the front side of hearing these presentations and taking notes and giving them to the member I work for. I've also been on the other side of actually giving the presentation. So taking the pressure away a little bit it'll help if you prepare. And it doesn't have to be long, but I put together just these tips and tricks to help kind of start thinking about what you want your presentation to look like. And the good first step is you want to clearly introduce yourself. You're not going to have too much time, so we want to keep it very brief, but it's important to set the stage of who you are and why are you an advocate and why are you there today speaking about this very important issue. You can briefly touch on are you a parent? Do you have personal lived experience? But it also could be mention that you're a constituent because that's what they're there for, is to hear from their constituents. So that's an important note to mention of I'm a constituent from so-and-so town in that county. They really like to hear that. It's also good to set the stage in the beginning by sharing a personal story. These are the small mementos that legislators are going to remember. A lot of times with these delegation meetings, they are hours long. They kind of run together. They're hearing from 50 to 100 people. So if you can do anything to really set yourself apart in sharing a personal story of an impact, it also could be something that they've done in the past or if you've met with them before, but they like to remember stories more than statistics. So, and it doesn't even have to be your own story. If you are a board member of a local ARC or if you've heard stories from other people, it's the same thing of You're illustrating the real life impact that their policy choices or even the policy priorities that you're advocating for, you are illustrating the local impact that they can have. It's also good to be very clear and specific. So you'll see also on this slide of it needs to be concise, it needs to be short just because your time is going to be limited. So you don't want to throw too much at them. You want to be, and what I've done when I've have to do some presentations like this, I've written out some bullet points. You probably don't want more than 7 or 8, but start kind of writing out, what do you want to say? What are the most important points? And when you look at all those bullet points, look and see what is the most important thing that I want them to take away. And often that is who you are, what you do, the impact, and what you're asking for. You don't want to say of, oh, well, I want your support on these 10 issues. You really want to narrow it down to 2 or 3, or even just one very important issue. So I put an example of the biggest thing that you want them to remember is that you're asking for their support in increasing iBudget funding or another legislative priority. That's the biggest thing that you want them to remember. And it's okay to be upfront with your ask. It's okay to ask for their support. Those are the things that they're going to remember. And a lot of legislators, I know my former boss she would write down just bullet points, the specific issues that people are advocating for. And she would put tallies by each one. So say that you've got, your ARCs in a county, you can speak, a couple of your board members could also speak. You could speak as a group, but it'll show a collective effort. And there may also be other people in that community that are advocating on that same issue that you may not be aware that you have all this community support that you can really pull from for that specific issue. It's also good to use the power of numbers, but don't throw a crazy amount of data at them. They're not going to remember it. It's the same thing by being clear and specific. Include just maybe 1 to 3 powerful statistics about the statistics from your area. They could be statewide. A lot of the advocacy documents that the ARC of Florida or other organizations may have, you can even pull and verbalize a statistic from that sheet. And then, like I said before, it'll help when you prepare because it's going to have to be succinct and it will likely have to be short, especially with these big delegations. They're likely going to put a time constraint on you, and that could be anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes. I've seen, some of the big delegations in Orange County where they're there for hours. You have hundreds of people show up, they give you 3 minutes. So it's going to help you by being very clear. And what I've done before is I've taken those bullet points with me when I've presented at that podium. Anything that helps you be prepared and make sure that you're aware of what you want to say ahead of time. Okay, next slide. Okay, I wanted to throw in just a few best practices that I've seen from myself doing them or for when I've seen other people give really good presentations to delegations. So if you have some time, research your delegation members ahead of time. The larger delegations, like I've mentioned, like Orange, Broward, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, they actually have websites and staff that are specific for that delegation because they're so large. So if you Google Broward County Legislative Delegation, on the website, it's going to list out every member in that delegation. And then when you go, there's a website for each, the Florida House and the Florida Senate. If you go to those websites, it's going to list out all the legislators. That way, this is also a great thing to do in general as you're kind of setting the stage for your advocacy, because you want to know ahead of time who you're talking to. You can also find out if you have some equal ground of, did you go to the same college? You're from the same area? It'll list out their occupation. It's great to have an idea of who you're going to be talking to. You can also research the bills that they've filed or that they've co-sponsored in the past. You may find some advocates that you have in this space that you didn't know that you had before. If you look through their sponsored bills and you see that they've sponsored some bills that would have supported your communities in the past or some of the issues that you care about, that's a great note for you to have because you can also verbally thank them in your presentation. It's also good to bring a one-pager and some business cards. So in a previous slide, Summer mentioned that the ARC of Florida will have a legislative agenda. Even if there's not a legislative agenda or a specific one-pager for that issue you're talking about, it could just be that, when I was in aid, people would give me a Word document printed out. It just had bullet points. Like, these are the core issues of what I'm talking about. Sometimes it doesn't have to be pretty, but I would caution you from giving them, don't give them 10 pages. It should always be around 1 page. The same thing with your comments. When you give them a one-pager, highlight those biggest things of what do you want them to take from that one pager. If they were going to look at this for 30 seconds, what do you want them to get out of it? Because that's often the only time that they'll have to look at it it could be 30 seconds to 5 minutes. It's also good to bring some business cards. So with these delegation meetings and the big county ones, I know that they're long, but if you have a little bit more availability that day, I always like to encourage people to show up a little early or stay a little bit later. This gives you an opportunity to network with some of the staff members or with the legislators. People will kind of swarm them before and after, so you kind of got to squeeze in there a little bit. But a lot of people forget to network with the staff, and having some business cards with you is a great way of, you want to make sure that especially if they like your comments or they want to learn more, they need a way to contact you afterwards. So it could be giving them your business card ahead of time or after the meeting, or sometimes in their comments, they'll say, hey, can you give your business card to my staff? I want to follow up with you afterwards. So in that situation, you don't want to not have a business card. So it's good to at least have something with you that has your contact information on them. And I also like to encourage, this is a professional forum, and it's important to conduct yourself professionally as you would in a business setting. So you should treat this delegation meeting like you would if you're going to a committee hearing, if you're going to go to the Capitol. So I do encourage, dress professionally. Doesn't have to be a three-piece suit and a tie, but maybe business professional, business casual. I do encourage, dressing professionally. And it's also good to follow up. So even if the legislator asks, sometimes you'll give your presentation and they'll say, oh, thank you for your comments. You won't get any questions. You won't get, please reach out to me with more additional information. That's not bad. It just means that they're taking in the information. That also doesn't mean that you can't follow up. It's a good opportunity for you to email them directly, thank them for the opportunity to talk to them, reiterate what organization you're from, couple bullets of what you talked about, offer to be a resource for them. These legislators, especially if you've got legislators that are coming off that are recently elected, they have to learn so many issues at once. So the best thing that you want to be for them is a resource, especially with a lot of the issues that you are advocating for. They have some nuance to them. They could be a little, and they take some historical knowledge sometimes. So if you can be a resource and kind of explain to them, this is what this policy could mean for myself, for the communities that I serve, and for the people in your district. You want to be that resource. You want them to reach out to you and say, hey, I've seen this bill come across my desk. What are the implications in the district? What do you think this is going to do? That is the best case scenario. So you want to know that they need to know how to contact you. And sometimes, even if they don't see that email, the staff will see the email and they'll kind of funnel that to the side when they see some bills come in the next session. And lastly, a lot of this is discounted. People they discount the idea of gratitude and saying thank you. And I really just want to stress that, Summer and Dustin talked about how long this legislative session was. This was a hard session for these legislators. It's not to say that every session isn't hard, but this one, it wasn't planned to be this long. It was very contentious, and they also have a quick turnaround for the next one. So they didn't even get that much of a break. So starting your comments by expressing gratitude for them, by allowing this public forum, all the work that they do for their constituents, it goes a long way. A lot of times legislators, they're contacted when someone doesn't like a bill or their constituents think that they voted the wrong way or did something wrong. They don't always get contacted when we tell them they're doing something right. So that's also a good item to have in the back of your head of, what are ways that I can thank them for all the work that you're doing? Because just like with any other relationship with like a donor or anything else, or even just a friend, expressing gratitude goes a long way in helping build that relationship. Okay, I think that was my last slide.
I think so. Dustin's going to share a little bit about, thank you, Toby, first and foremost. I think that was great. And if you can stay on, we wanted to make sure that there was time for, if there were questions, whether they're in the chat or you want to take yourself off mute, but I'm going to let Dustin share a little reminder, or maybe folks aren't aware of some of the resources that the ARC of Florida has. So thank you again, Toby.
Thanks, Summer. Yeah, thank you so much, Toby. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to be with us and present for us today. It's definitely cool to have someone who used to work as a legislative staffer to help give us some insight. So we appreciate that. So yeah, hopefully you all are aware. If you're not, just a little reminder that the ARC of Florida does have an advocacy page. It's www.arcoflorida.org/advocacy. It's a little tab up top. But we do advocacy campaigns. We post delegation meeting notices. We also post our ARC of Florida legislative agenda. We post newsletters about advocacy, and we also every month, including this one today, we have monthly statewide advocacy calls. All are welcome. We have families, providers, clients, self advocates. All are welcome. And so that's www.artflorida .org slash advocacy meetings, and that's just another little tab. It's a drop down tab on our website. And then we're going to be doing some more advocacy trainings like this to follow up this training. It'll be the first one. The next one will be in January of 2026. So we do. If you have any comments or questions, anything you want to share in the chat, or unmute yourself and give yourself the opportunity to speak on anything you have any ideas about advocacy. Like I said, we couldn't do this without you all, families, clients, providers. We wouldn't be able to advocate without hearing from you all. So now we have a little bit of time to do that. So thank you again.
Hello, this is Melody Hearn. I'm also a parent with many lived experiences. I have a son of 25. So yes, we're on that journey, even into the area of group home and more independent living with medical issues as well, but found a nurse who started a home in our area. So just to continue, I'm also the chair of Family Care Council Area 15 on the Treasure Coast. I have had trepidations of late, but hopefully this year it changes. That with the new legislation under House Bill 1103, yes, that we will have a state family care council going forward, and the advocacy title was put back that APD had removed from our mission statement. So the question that I have is, and maybe Toby can help me on this, how would you see me going to these delegations? Because I've gone to all of them and usually wore my family care council shirt, advocating for the needs, because we are part of their funding every year, under 393 .052, that I am a voice. I am a parent with lived experience. I am a part of Down syndrome advocacy and policy. I am. I attend the ARC advocacy meetings. But I was almost hand slapped for going and advocating with that shirt and badge on. So I'm asking you all, what would be appropriate moving forward?
Well, first, Melody, thank you for joining, and thank you for your advocacy and being the first one to ask a question. So thank you for being here. And I'm sorry that that's been your experience. I hate to hear when folks are doing their civic duty and being a citizen, and again being engaged in their political process, to be to have that be a negative experience is disappointing, but it does happen. And but I think again, I think you have a lot to say, and you have a lot of it sounds like you come with all kinds of hats on to be able to provide that information at something like a legislative delegation. If that's something that you've done before or you're interested in doing, I hope some of the information that Toby shared would be helpful.
And they're done. They got the T-shirt.
Okay. Yes.
Many years.
Right. So
I've had a legislator even say that I trained him on his first.
that's perfect. So I would wear that as a badge of honor then, let the haters hate, would be my suggestion. I mean, again, we're always going to have people with whatever type of advocacy that we're working on, whether it's children's issues, developmental disabilities, elder, animals. Like we're never going to make everybody like us, perhaps. Our style may rub someone the wrong way. I think, again, practicing being respectful and kind to folks is maybe a lost art. But I would encourage you, keep doing what you're doing. And if there's if there's opportunities or suggestions, or, sometimes too, I was just listening to something on the news that I thought was helpful, is getting people's input, but, but finding three people, not having 10 people give you your opinion, because then you're going to run the risk of somebody, maybe saying something that really you don't like. But find three people in your life that that they would give you good feedback, and be transparent, and give them an opportunity, like, hey, here's my bullets, or here's what I want to say. What do you think? Again, being open to some feedback, again, if it's in that respectful and in that kind manner. But I would say keep doing what you're doing. And I'm going to let Toby share anything else that she may find helpful, to share with Melody.
Summer, well said. I mean, I agree with you, and it's exactly what you said. It's unfortunate sometimes, and it's not that it's ever excusable, because I this is a process that should be open and everyone should be encouraged to participate, because it's not accessible for everyone to come up to Tallahassee and advocate in person. But sometimes, legislators are dealing with 1,000 things that they could just be having a bad day. And I think it's important to, like what Summer said, of still keep showing up. But then what are some things that I could tweak? Because sometimes if you go a little bit longer in your presentation, and I understand there's a lot to say, and it is stressful in that environment of to condense all your comments to just 5 minutes or even 2 minutes. You can't say much in 2 minutes. And that can be, it's adding even more stress, and that's frustrating, because you might feel like this is your only opportunity to really get to hear, for them to hear what you're saying. And what you're saying is very important, because your lived experience is reality, and it's the reality for so many other parents and families. And it's important for them to hear that when they go up to Tallahassee, because they're going to start hearing about these issues, and that's the context that they need to make some meaningful change. So I would encourage you to still go, still attend. But like what Summer said, I love, presenting to three other people or running your ideas by three other people to get different ideas, or how can I shorten it, or do I need a
Mhm.
little bit more additional context here? So having it really, you know, very, I keep saying short and concise, but that's really what legislators prefer, and it's what they're going to remember. And it's discounted by just leading with thank you for all the hard work that y'all are doing. Sometimes I'll hear people say that in this delegation meeting, and all the legislators, their ears will peak up, or their head will kind of peak up, and they're like, someone's telling me thank you. Like, it's not very not very often they get to hear those words. So it's important little touches and context like there, and kind of just understanding, like, vice versa. They should always try to see where y'all are coming from in your advocacy, and how important it is that you're taking time out of your day to speak to them. It's also important context to see where are they coming from. Sometimes they're doing 4 of these meetings in a day. If you ever have a day when you're at a lot of meetings, sometimes you're done and you want to turn your brain off. So it's that little additional context is helpful. But Melody, you have so much great experience. I definitely keep doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you all.
And at the end of the, I mean, it is everything that Toby kind of shared too. I mean, I've done multiple delegation hearing presentations, and I always get nervous. There's something vulnerable about standing up in front of a large group and standing at a podium. It's very formal. Most of these delegation hearings are happening likely at like the county council, chambers, or maybe a local city government, municipalities. So there is this formalness, right? There's a podium there. The legislators are all up at a dais. They're looking at you, and then you got everybody behind you staring a hole in your back. And I mean, it puts you out there, and it is very vulnerable. And I would encourage too, I think Toby mentioned it, even if, let's say your goal one day is to testify, because again, you're an advocate, you have a lot to say, you want to be heard, you want your voice. But maybe the first step is to just go to one, just sit in the audience. Or maybe you've got an opportunity where you could go to Gilchrist County Legislative Delegation, but you live in Levy. So you're going to be close, but you could go to one and watch one, because they're all pretty much the same. There is some uniqueness, of course, from every county. I'm not saying that, but you could observe one, and then maybe you, again, do that prep work, get 3 people that are going to give you that feedback, and then make it your goal to go and be part of the one that's in your area. But just so you can see it, sometimes that's half the nervousness, is just seeing what it's going to be like and having a couple people go before you. But again, butterflies are still there for me all the time. So
So can you add to your advocacy list the governor's cabinet on children and youth? I learned about that from one of our state gatherings back in the day when we were able to gather. And it happened to be in my backyard that Monday after we had met that weekend as Family Care Council. So I went with an understanding of my parent involvement, my lived experience. And it was that I had to take a certain situation up to hearing and have documentation and prove the need for my son when it was actually his right to have a certain medical device and assistance. And I said, which one of you were going to tell me that it was my son's right? No one. No one was going to tell me that I had to consult disability rights, not with them having me at that hearing, but they did give me the advice that it was his right for a person with intellectual developmental disability to have this certain device to assist his health. And from that, when I had asked just for a little bit of help, I ended up getting nursing 7 nights a week, 12-hour shifts. So this is the breakdown in understanding what our individuals need and that whole procedure. And so in attending that, probably people didn't like me too well, but I was speaking truth, and that we need to have system changes, and we need to make parents available of that information. It is their child's right to have that type of service if they met that level of determination. Just thank you for all what you're doing, and the governor's cabinet on children and youth, which travels 4 times a year to different parts of the state.
yeah, and Melody, I think that's a great addition that we can add to the ARC's Florida's website on those kind of meeting notices when they come out. They they do have a quarterly, and again, for those that might not be aware, there are a few governor appointed individuals that are part of the Children and Youth Cabinet, but it's also all of your executive branch secretaries. So it's the Secretary of Agency for Healthcare Administration. It's your Secretary of Department of Health. It's your Secretary of Department of Children and Families. It will be the new APD director that's just been appointed by the governor. So it has those different offices, and then there's usually a House of Representatives member and a Senate member that sits on there again with this whole youth and child focus. And again, it was created quite a few years back, just again to help foster that intergovernmental communication. Because of all these siloed agencies, they all may come in contact with individuals with developmental disabilities. Again, the Education Commissioner of Education is on that. So great suggestion, Melody. We'll make sure that as we're tracking and knowing that they're going on, it may be something, it might be harder to get on the agenda for something like that, although I do believe they have public input and public forum. But there'll be opportunities again to attend, and you can always watch them virtually as well. So that's a great suggestion. So thank you. Anyone else with a question? We've got a few minutes left. Well, I'll ask a question out to and I appreciate some of the feedback on the chat, so that's really helpful. Is this something that you guys, anybody out there that wants to share that maybe they haven't testified before, but they're thinking about it, and maybe some of these tips, these best practices and suggestions, maybe something that they're hoping to do as a goal in the next couple months? Okay. I'll take that as yes, everybody's going to sign up. Anybody think that, and I may pick on some of my ARC CEOs that are on the call or on the Zoom call. Does kind of an organized structure of some advocacy ideas and things like that, is that something that you all could see as benefit to your board of directors and your volunteer and advocates at a local level?
Summer, to your point, the more that we
Hey,
share,
Ron. Yeah.
yeah, good morning or good afternoon. The more we share the issues that we're dealing with, that we're struggling with, uh, the voice just resonates, and sinking, one voice, if you will, the more powerful we'll be. As you know, Alan's did a fantastic job over the last couple of years, and I know you will continue that. But it's just we're all just fighting really for the same things and advocating for the same things. So it's just the more that we get our boards involved, um, the stronger we'll be as well.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Ron. Ron
Mhm.
is our CEO for the Arc of the Bay over in Panama City, Panhandle of Florida. Alan, I knew you were going to put your camera on and say
Yeah.
something. Yay. I'm
Hey,
glad
I
you're
really,
here.
I really like the idea of the Four Seasons. I mean, normally when we're talking about issues, transportation, rate, things like that. But I think especially when it comes to boards who are often leaders in the community, um, that it gives an opportunity to talk about it in terms of like what is the issue of the day, but more holistic approach. And I think that's a great way to take it on, a different way to take it on. So I appreciate that method. Just wanted to mention one other thing. I think I saw Amanda on the line, and I'll never forget it. It had a big impact on me when she spoke at her delegation meeting about her family, and it was just to educate them, the delegation, but it actually ended up changing her family's life because one of the delegate members, I think, reached out and things happened. And I know that we think about going to delegation meetings and asking for certain things, but they really need to be educated about challenges you're having. And you don't have to ask for anything. You just need to educate them sometimes if you don't know the solution. But if they know your issue, that's their job to come up with policy changes to help you.
Good point.
Great job today.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for all of your hard work over the years in this space.
Summer, Deborah Watkins asked a great question. I was just about to respond in the chat, but just in case anyone else had the same question. So
Sure.
if you see that your county hasn't scheduled a meeting yet, don't be discouraged. They will very likely be scheduling them within the next month or two. So like I said earlier in the presentation, of reaching out to those local legislative offices is a great practice if you want to get information now. But Deborah, you also mentioned that so Congressman Stubbe and Congressman Buchanan, they won't be at these state legislative delegation meetings just because these are for state members of the legislature. But as an additional note, for anyone that wants to engage at the federal level, it is August recess. You may see some members of Congress in the state of Florida starting to do some roundtables or public town halls, or they're even doing office hours with some of their staff in district during August, because for the entire month they're supposed to be in district. So if you're looking to engage with your federal member of Congress, I really encourage you to sign up for their newsletters. That's how you're really going to find out information of if they're doing anything during August recess.
That's great. Thank you, Toby. Anyone else? We got 2 minutes left.
I would like to say something. Can you hear me?
Hi, Elaine. Yes.
This was the most informative Zoom that I have ever been on, in explanations, very simplified, but yet detailed. And I want to commend you for doing that, because it really hit home. I'm a parent, I'm an advocate, and the way everything was laid out and said was just beautifully understandable and well done. And I just want to commend you. And I think that I know it was probably recorded, that it should be shared amongst all groups everywhere, just because it says it so perfectly. And I thank you. And I've been on a lot of Zooms. And Miss Melody, you spoke beautifully too. I'm alongside Melody. She is a standout always.
Elaine, thank you so much. That's great feedback. That's what we wanted. We really just wanted to, again, I think Alan said it really well. We talk a lot about issues, but this is a different way to kind of give advocates an organizational strategy tool, and then to be able to do a deep dive, even to keep it simple, but to do a deep dive about legislative delegations. Because again, we talk about them a lot, you hear about them a lot, but we really wanted to drill down and give you all some information to, you know, share if you want to be part of it or not. It's still helpful to know, what are these things? Why are they meeting? So thank you, Elaine, for being with us. We are going to be sharing this. This is recorded. We're going to have it on our YouTube channel. And the PowerPoint that Dustin and myself and Toby were working on, we are going to make that available as well. So I know Dina will be sending that out. I just sent it to her before this call was over. So we'll make sure that that gets out to everybody, and look forward to having another, as Dustin said, we're going to have advocacy Zoom calls like this for next month, September. I don't know if we do one in October, but November and December. But then we're going to have another one in January to get ready for coming to Tallahassee and advocating. So stay tuned on that. We definitely want to keep going on this kind of advocacy training and share the resources that we have with everyone. So thanks, everyone. It's been such a great pleasure. Thank you again, Toby and Dustin. Thank you, Dina, Ron, Melody for sharing, Alan, of course, as well. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.